just doing a little bit of introduction. So myself, I'm Jackie Heshi. I'm the sales manager at Candrone. I've been at Candrone for 5 years. I've been in the drone space for about 8 years. Here at Candrone, we offer a wide spectrum of remote sensing and robotics solutions. We've been selected by GreenValley as their 2023 premier partner. With that being said, stay tuned until the end as we also have an exclusive offer. Cody?
Yeah, so thanks for that introduction, Jackie. My name's Cody McCall. I'm the North American Operations and Customer Success Manager for GreenValley. I've been with the company for a couple years now, graduate of UC Berkeley, specifically in geospatial technology and that of climate awareness. So this specific webinar reigns close to home for me. So.
Perfect. Introduction to forestry metric based on ALS and TLS data methods. So on the agenda, we're gonna cover the tools, the data collection, LiDAR 360 to extract forestry metrics, combining aerial and terrestrial scans, and at the end, we're gonna go over calculating biomass based on biomass models. The tools that we used in this scan was the LiGrip H300. That was paired with the backpack and UAV kit. We also use the LiBase, which provides PPK GNSS for our solution. And then we also use the DJI M350. So this is DJI's flagship Matrice series. For software, we use the LiFuser BP. LiFuser is for processing the raw sensor data. So essentially it infuses the data to point a LAS file. And then the main star of the show is LiDAR 360. This is used to extract and calculate metrics. The data collection was really simple. I can see on the left, the setup is pretty easy. Everything came in a Pelican box. You essentially mount the LiGrip onto a backpack. The LiGrip can be used in handheld mode. The reason why we use the backpack is because it has a GNSS antenna. So this allows our data to be georeferenced to a coordinate system. And the last picture you can see there is what the setup looks like once everything is mounted and ready to go. The device connects to your phone, so you'll be able to see what you are viewing when you're scanning. It has a Wi-Fi live stream built into the unit, so this allows you to see how much coverage and penetration the system is getting. Also, I found that this is a great way to show you whether where you stood and where you ended the scan. So it allows you to navigate a forest where maybe you're not very familiar with the environment. Here you can see myself just cruising around with the backpack. The backpack's very light, and it also has a really impressive GNSS reception. So even under in this environment, we're getting about 18 to 23 satellites. The GNSS really helps with SLAM localization. So typically with localized SLAM, you may experience some sort of drift or shifting in the data set. Having the GNSS embedded in the SLAM solution will allow to ensure that not only is your data set geo-referenced, but prevents any sort of drifting. Now, transitioning to post-processing.
Yeah, so we're going to highlight post-processing. So we already did our pre-processing in LiFuser. Now we're seeing a profile view of LiDAR 360 and this TLS collected data set. From the side, you can see the quality of data that we're receiving when we reach it at a ground level. In this video, we're going to focus on the segmentation workflow. So we have two different modes in LiDAR 360, Pro and Basic. Right now, we're highlighting Basic. It is a one-touch run for everything. You can preset the parameters for subsampling, remove outliers, classifying ground points, normalizing ground points, and segmentation processes. So that one-touch button will run them all, including your specific DVH and your tree height that you're looking for in segmentation purposes.
So LiDAR 360 allows for different types of profiles. So you have Pro and Basic. Pro essentially allows you to be a little bit more granular with your steps. So if you want to ensure that each step along the way is accurate and precise, you can do that in Pro, whereas Basic is more or less like a one-click solution to process your data.
In this video, we're going to be focusing on the ALS side of the segmentation. As mentioned, we collected an ALS data set at the same spot with the LiGrip H300 and the M350. This allowed us to have an aerial view, total encompassing side of the data. The setup parameters are the same as TLS. The key difference is how you normalize either by ground points or by DEM, and then calculating forest metrics by grid. That's something that you would go ground truth, gather regression analysis based metrics, and then input them into the system so that the full system would run off of that. This one, we only focused on the point cloud data as a reference for aerially collected data.
Perfect. Now, Cody, for some of our audiences here, what does it mean to normalize your data set?
Yeah, so when you have a data set, whether it be terrestrially or collected aerially, you're guaranteed to have some sort of elevation differences. What happens when you normalize the data, it actually removes those undulations from terrain. So the data set actually becomes flat, making it easier to create seed points that relate to the actual heights of the trees and not the heights of the environment.
Great. So essentially, it removes any hills and valleys in your data set, ensures that the terrain is at 0. So what that does to your data set is you're able to measure the tops of the trees to the bottom of the tree because now you know what true ground is.
Exactly. And so within the specific data set, we were able to see a difference between normalized and denormalized. We'll have Jackie explain that a little bit further.
Yeah, so the one on the left here is, you can see that the ground is perfectly flat. And on the right here, you see the blue, there is still some elevation at 1,496. This is ellipsoidal height. Cody, can the software denormalize the data set after it's been normalized?
Definitely. So prior to segmentation within those parameters that we spoke of earlier, you would actually just click the add original Z value. When normalizing, it actually removes the Z value from the data set. So it puts everything at 0. By adding the Z value into the original segmentation process, you can denormalize by adding the Z back in.
That's perfect. So you can turn the data set back into normal.
Exactly.
Okay, LiDAR 360 extracting methods. So let's talk about manual DBH.
Yeah, so DBH is considered the diameter at breast height, which is the average height of a stand of trees at their breast height, which is typically 1.4 meters. Within LiDAR 360, we have several abilities to actually gain and capture the DBH of a data set. What we're highlighting here specifically is a manual ability to collect the DBH from your stand. This is more time consuming, but this is also more accurate just purely because you are doing it by hand.
Yeah, LiDAR 360 is probably one of my favorite softwares out there. And the reason why I like it so much is because the visualization. I played around with other softwares before, but when working with heavy point clouds, visualizing your data is really important. Here, what you see with the different colors is that the software has automatically classified each tree and attributed a tree ID to each tree. So those points of clusters, the colorized cluster of points, that all retains under one tree ID. So the system knows that these points that we have here is tree ID number 1, tree ID number 2, tree ID number 3, and so forth. Automated batch DBH parameters.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, we do have a manual-based DBH collection, but we also have an automated. The automated side does save a lot of time from having to do the manual, but there may be slight errors. So within LiDAR 360, we have the ability to highlight those errors based on confidence level. So we can choose to hide or show a specific confidence level of DBH, whether it be low, medium, or high. If it's low or medium, we can actually select those and automatically run the DBH again to try to get a better calculation total off of that batch DBH process. And you can continuously do that just to make the data better, which in turn is still less time than the manual DBH measurements.
Yeah, we're moving to a world where everybody wants a one-click button solution. But in the real world, there's always going to be noise and outliers. So it's really important to have a solution that allows you to go in there and clean up your data set. So LiDAR 360 is really extremely helpful in doing so. Provides all the necessary tools for you to do that, as you can see here.
The whole point is that we just try to make everything as streamlined as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, seed point and DBH check.
So as mentioned, there is the automated and also manual DBH measurements. You're able to go within the software and physically check those DBH post the batch extraction. This will allow you to know whether or not your confidence level was accurate and that your DBH is accurate and that it aligns with your seed points. So as mentioned, the segmentation process produces an Excel file. This Excel file contains several different types of attributes. At the end of segmentation, you end up with the position, both X and Y and Z. You end up with the actual tree height, the diameter breast height, crown diameters, volumes, areas. All of these matter because with that, we're able to actually see what the tree or the stands house. So in the collectiveness, our company started as a software company focused on forced post-processing. So we focused on the key aspects of post-processing, forced collected LiDAR data. Through the years, we've improved the softwares, improved the algorithms, which have allowed us to get more accurate results, leading to a better overall outcome for the users in the end.
Combined scans, highlighting the differences between ALS and TLS.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, we did a collection with the light grip on the M350 and then the handheld. There are slight differences, and this is purely just because below canopy, you're going to get the entirety of the tree, where when you have ALS, you're going to miss some of that below data. So.
Yeah, this is very typical of aerial LiDAR. We typically see very strong tops of the trees and very low confidence in trunk structure. So this is why having a TLS solution to get the underside of the canopies is very important to fill in the image.
And as mentioned earlier, we ran two different types of segmentation processes. Both have different algorithms, ALS and TLS. In the image that we're showing here is related to what Jackie spoke of earlier for the segmentation and the colorization of trees. So we can see that blue and yellow represents the TLS, and then the two darker colors represent the LS data, giving us a total encompassing view of the actual tree itself.
Yeah, and having GNSS tremendously helps with alignment. When you have a ground aero scan that just fits in together well, you won't need to do any sort of manual registration that you typically do with a local SLAM solution.
So yeah, in this one, we're just going to highlight the key differences between ALS and TLS. As we can see, seed points for ALS are collected at the top of the tree. For TLS, it's typically collected at ground level. So you're going to have data from both of those together. When merged together, you actually can have a full model of the area, viewing a viewer model that allows the user to verify and check their results.
What is the seed point?
So a seed point is what is generated from the software that actually pertains all of the metadata in example for the post-segmentation process. This allows us to have our Excel file representing our tree IDs, our crown diameters, all associated to a single seed point.
Perfect. Okay, let's move on to what is biomass?
So biomasses collectively look at as the total of a tree. So branch, bark, leaves, foliage, even roots. This specifically matters because you want to have a total understanding, again, of what a forest pertains to, whether it's for biofuels or for preservation, conservation efforts. biomass is one of those key things that'll let you know what your forest stand has. So we're going to give a sneak peek now of our new software tool, which is Biomass Model Manager and Biomass Estimation. This will be released in mid-October. This actually gives the software the ability to intake a biomass model and do calculations based on the biomass model. The models that we're using are for Ponderosa pine, which is the forest that we collected at. The biomass models were actually provided from an online library from the US Department of Forestry. And so within our software, we're able to see that it is a super simple task to actually run the above ground mass. So you can do above ground mass, below ground mass, which is the roots, volume. Once the software actually runs the tool, it will now add additional columns to the original table attribute file, highlighting the above ground biomass. Had we done the below ground biomass or the volume, it would have added additional columns.
Amazing.
If you were looking for the total biomass of a specific plot, then you would just total the value of the biomass after estimation.
Absolutely. And why does it all matter, Cody?
Yeah, so I mean, as spoke of earlier, one of the biggest pushes for humans right now is climate combativeness, awareness, knowing what we have around us, and understanding our forest is a huge path forward. And if we know the amount of biomass that a specific forest has, then it can be utilized for both profit or for preservation and conservation efforts. Also, it can be used for firefighting planning. So being able to understand how much or the potential of fuels are in the actual forest may also help us combat the needs or the pre-planning put forth for firefighting.
Right. And how much time are we saving for our clients when compared to traditional methods?
This all really does depend on the size of the stand, but we are looking at a tenfold difference in speed when it comes to collection and processing compared to actually sending troops on the ground, having them walk through the field, then post-process closed, which usually is done purely by calculations. So collectively, it's greatly reduced the actual time spent collecting, then also time spent processing.
Absolutely. Now, we appreciate everybody who stayed to the end of this webinar. If you'd like to try out our software yourself today, all you have to do is reach out to us and let us know that you watched the webinar. Now, as a special offer, we're also going to be giving a free GNSS backpack. This is valued at $4,500 with a purchase of LiDAR. So this essentially makes the LiDAR GNSS capable. All you gotta do is talk to one of our reps today and let us know that you watched the webinar to the end. We won't have this part of the webinar in the recorded version, so this is only for folks that are live with us today. Okay, now we're gonna move on to questions. I do see that there's a bunch of questions on the list here. Just give me 1 second. Is the forestry module hardware agnostic, Cody?
It is not. So the forestry module works with aerially and terrestrially collected data, both from our own hardware and also third-party software hardware.
Does the module identify tree species?
So at the current moment in time, we do not have automated tree species, but we do have a tree species marker, which allows you to input tree species into the data as an additional column.
What kind of computer do you need for LiDAR 360?
So typically we suggest something that has at least an 8 GB RAM capability. A NVIDIA graphics card is typically suggested, like a high capability NVIDIA. It's just because there's quite a lot of GPU processing and also quite a lot of CPU processing. But our software has become 10 times as fast as it was even last year. So the processing times have greatly reduced.
Question here, so as long as you can produce a point cloud, you can use the forestry module. So correct, yeah, as long as you can have a scan, either an ALS or a TLS of a forest, you're able to use the forestry module.
Exactly, and then algorithm-based would be just purely on whether it was aerially collected or terrestrially collected.
Would it be better to collect ground-based LiDAR via mount to a terrain vehicle versus walking the plot?
So typically with SLAM, it actually it acts for itself, so it can handle deviations when walking, specifically that of having to crawl over trees or large areas. A robotic vehicle would be capable of doing the same thing as long as it can maintain a specific speed, and yeah, so it can absolutely be completely autonomous if needed.
Is the only output the CSV file?
So specifically from the segmentation side of it, it is the CSV file, and then in the point cloud itself, there's metadata added. So the tree ID is added, the colorization as shown before, which is the individual colors for trees. Those actually follow the data set with it, and then you get the Excel file. But the software does generate other types of files depending on what tool is run. At the same time of the release of our biomass model, we'll be releasing the tree model, so a tree generation model. This one will actually utilize like OBJ files and things of that nature.
Perfect. And the last question we have is, what is LiDAR 360's pricing models?
Yeah, so we have a perpetual and an annual license. We have a framework, which is required to work with the software, then modules. And so today we highlighted the forestry module. So you would need the framework and the forestry module enabled to accomplish what we covered today. If you're going to run DEMs, then you would need like the terrain module as
well. One more question just slipped through. In the pine forest, what was the level of confidence calculating DBH just using ALS?
So for this one specifically, we didn't run DBH because it is actually nearly impossible to get valuable DBH accumulations from terrestrially collected data. That's the key factor of running your TLS side, is getting ground level, getting canopy data. That's what allows us to get the DBH. Exactly,
yeah. So this is why having a solution that is both ALS and TLS capable is something that's going to be quite useful for, especially in this sort of applications.
Exactly. And so in time, the software will be able to process both of them together. This is in the near future, and this would allow for a total compassing combined effect, and that would in turn produce slightly different results. As of right now, there are several different methods of biomass modeling and estimation. We specifically just highlighted and focused on the TLS side of the biomass, but we were highlighting the tree segmentation from ALS as well.
Okay, this wraps up our webinar. Thank you everybody for submitting your questions. And we hope that you learned something today. If you have any more questions, I ask that you reach out to us at support@Candrone and speak with one of our technical sales consultants. If you like this content, follow us on social media. So that's LinkedIn and YouTube. We're constantly posting great, insightful videos for you to watch and learn. So thank you, everybody, and bye for now.
Thanks, everybody, for attending, and speak soon.